Well, I got my fire going back up again, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this wood burl right here, this poplar burl. It kind of looks like a snail, and I'm going to burn a hole in the bottom of it to make a seed grinder. Alright, and once my stones get hot, I'm going to have to be able to pick them up and carry them over to my my work. So what I did is I just took a piece of oak and I split it down the center, put a twig in it right there, so that I can use it like a pair of tongs. All you do is grab onto it and squeeze them closed, and you can grab onto well, pretty much anything you want to grab onto, and that's what I'm going to use to pick my rocks up and set it on top of my work with. And just something simple like this can make something like that so much easier. And because the rocks are going to be absolutely red hot, and there's no way you can pick them up with your hands, or well, any other way really isn't too efficient unless you use a spoon or a pan or something like that. But just a pair of tongs like this is a very simple split piece of wood. The best way to do it. And while I'm waiting, I'm going to melt this bucket of snow to get myself something to drink. Alright, I think my rocks are hot enough. I'm going to reach in there and try to get one out and put it on there, and we'll see what it does. I may have to heat them up a little bit more. Let's dig into the fire there. Just put it on there and you press. You set your rock on there and you press it. See all the smoke coming up off of it. I have to heat them up just a little bit more. Yeah, look at that baby smoking. Yeah, you just keep doing it like that until you burn a deep hole in it. If you don't get what you want the first time, you heat your rocks up again, and you scrape all of this out. You scrape all the charcoal off. Scrape it loose. Okay, scrape it right off of there. If it doesn't get deep enough for you the first time, just repeat the process and keep doing it until you get what you want. Yeah, see there's a nice hole in it now. I'm working it deeper. I gotta use blow on it. Of course, this method doesn't work very well with green wood. You have to use dead, dry, standing wood. So now I got a solid coal going in the center of it, and what I do is I take my stick. Take a stick like this, and I set it right on top of the coals, and I blow. If you just blow on this coal like that, without a stick being on top of it, it'll go out every single time. So what you got to do is you got to put a stick right there, and it gives a surface for the heat to interact with, and then you blow. And the coal will keep burning. And you just kind of keep working it like that. Alright, check it out. See? It's about, I don't know, about an inch deep in there, and You know, this one's really big enough to put some food, so I can stick my whole hand in there. This one's really big enough to put some food or whatever and grind them up. Whatever it is, you know, handfuls of seeds or roots, bark, whatever. And you can also use this as a bowl to eat out of or whatever. And see, it's kind of neat. It kind of almost looks like a snail or something. And that's all you do. That's all there is to making wood bowls, and you can make a boat like this too. Same method. And also that branch that I was using to press the rocket with. Well, while I was working the coals and blowing it, I kept rubbing it in there, rubbing the charcoal loose. And what happens is this matches up to this, so that they just fit together good. All the curves, all the curves in there all fit together from this to this. So I'm going to use this as my mandrel to grind with, and so I got kind of like both tools done at the same time. And of course I'm going to carve the bark off of this, take the bark off of it, and maybe I'll take some sand and scrub the charcoal out of this, because I don't want to eat that or whatever. But yeah, that's all there is to it. Done. Alright, now that I found just the right kind of bone, just the right leg bone, I'm going to show you how to make a foot knife out of this right here, and a couple other tools. And I just found this one laying on the ground. It still has the marrow inside of it, so I might be able to eat that also if it's still good. Yeah, it's an excellent find right here. Alright, let's make some tools out of bone. What I put together to make my bone tools out of is I got a piece of sandstone right here. It's real gritty like sandpaper. And I got this stone here to use as a hammer rock to knap the bone with. And then of course I got this here to help polish it with. It's another kind of stone. It's smooth. I mean, it'll polish it pretty good. First thing I do is I look at the bone real good and try to determine what I want to make out of it. And sometimes when they lay out in the weather, they get little cracks in them. Like this one's already cracked right there. It's got a crack there. So I can use that to my advantage. And you just start out with light taps. See, you break off the pieces. Yeah, just like that. Now, you see it's full of dirt. There's no marrow inside there. It's all gone. Clean it out real good. Yeah, see? Now, when I make this knife, I'm going to have a nice handle to use. And I'm going to use this part right here as my edge. So that means I got to remove all this material and bevel it at an angle so that it comes out sharp here on this edge. Now, that's what this sandstone is all about. And see, I'm continuing to grind a nice bevel onto it right there. And when it comes out sharp along this edge, I'll be ready to finish my knife. I'm almost done with it. So it's a pretty quick process. It's not really all that difficult. And it gives you one of the sharpest knives that you can possibly get. So you just continue grinding it. Until you get it to the way you want it. In a lot of ways, it's just like sharpening a knife.
Knock some of that sand out of it. That'll help me grind. So making bone knives and tools is just like flint knapping, only you sharpen everything when you're done. And sometimes you don't have to do that, like with this arrowhead right here. A piece of a bone that I just broke out. You see the inside of it. That's just absolutely razor sharp. And you can't ask for a better point than that. So I don't have to do anything to it. And when bones break, they break at angles that leave razor sharp edges on them. So if you don't want to invest a whole entire piece of bone like I did into a knife, you can just break them up into small pieces and get the smaller blades off of them. And that enables you to make all these other tools. Like this bone right here has a little tiny hole in it right there. It's just a natural hole that goes from the inside of the bone to the outside of the bone. And you can break that out and grind it on both sides so that you have a natural a needle with a natural hole in it, so you don't have to drill holes. And that's a really convenient thing to do. But you got to have a bone with a hole in it like that. They make perfect needles. So if you break your bones up into smaller pieces instead of using a whole bone, like I just demonstrated that knife I made, you can get a whole lot more tools like this. And you don't really have to sharpen any of them because they break off in razor sharp pieces. And some of the pieces of bone break off small enough that you can use them for fish hooks. Like this piece right here. It's got a perfect bend in it. Just everything I need right there for a fish hook. Bone is one of the most useful tools that you can get out in the wilderness if you use it wisely. And while I have an opportunity, I'm going to pick as much of this grass seed as I can. This wild bahia grass. The seed. And it's kind of like wheat. So, yeah, I can make use of that. Alright, I just caught a couple little tiny minnows with this little minnow net that I made here. I'm going to go ahead and try to catch some more. Maybe I can put together a nice soup for myself today. Well, we got a few of them that time, and they're small. They're pretty small. But all you gotta do is just keep doing that, and I'll get a bunch. If I just walk right straight down in there from this direction and try to get my minnows, they're all gonna swim right off down that little channel right there. So what I gotta do is I gotta walk along the bank and go down there a little ways and then go in the water, and then I'll use my net and force them all back this way, back up into the shallows. And right up in here is where I'm actually going to do most of my catching, and that's going to increase my chances of getting the most out of every try. So I'm going to try to scare them all back this way. My minnow hunting was a success. Okay. Alright. I've got this knocked over tree right here, and I lifted it up right here to fulcrum point so that it holds it up off the ground. And I'm going to use this to hang my bucket off of so that I can cook my soup. Well, the first thing I need to do is get my grass seed ready. You got to get the seed off of the stalks, and it's easy to do. You just grab it right there by the tips, and with your thumb and your forefinger, you just strip the seeds off. And I put them into a little bowl or whatever I have. So I'm using a stew pot. That's all you got to do. Just every one of them, you just strip the seeds off. just like you would a sheaf of wheat. And it doesn't really take a long time. They come right off. Some of them just shake right off even. But this makes an excellent cereal grain. And you don't have wheat flour or anything like that. You don't have beans or something like that. Just use regular grass seed. That's a perfect replacement for that because it's just like wheat. It has starches and protein. Alright, this is what I got so far. I got my grass seed. I got a few nice tender greenbrier leaves that I found. 2 bay leaves. And I found a couple beach peas. See the pea pods right there? Boy, those are going to be good. Now I'm going to chop up this gold stalk bolete mushroom and throw it in there too. That's going to be good. So I'll just chop that up and toss it in. And with these you just slice them up and drop them right in there. This one happens to be a nice bright lemon yellow. It's beautiful. No bugs in it. Yeah, that was a good point. Let's chop that stem up. They get pithy towards the very bottom, so that part isn't too good. Yum, that does look good. Alright, add some lake water. It's enough to cover. Remember, I'm making a soup here. And it's ready for the pot. Ready to hang over the pot's ready to hang over the stew fire. Okay, I'll bring that up to a boil, and I'll let it cook for 20 to 30 minutes or until everything's nice and tender, and all my seed is cooked and everything. I'm gonna have a really good lunch. And also, to make a nice flavorful drink with these berries, I can just pour the water in there. I can take my knife or a pine cone or whatever, and you just smash the berries in the water. Just crush them all together really good. And that'll make a nice tangy, fruity drink for me to have with my soup. If I want to change the height of my pot, all I got to do is move my fulcrum point and it'll drop it down. And that enables me to set it at any height I want. Alright, see it just simmering away. Oh, I can't wait, I'm hungry. Need about 10 more minutes to let it cook. And it'll be good. Don't forget to remove your bay leaves. That is going to be a good meal as soon as it cools off. Smells good. I can smell the bay leaf in it. I can smell the fish. So it's going to be kind of like a cacciatore or something. It should be really good. Let me get a sip of this here. And this fruit drink, oh, this is spectacular. Alright, let's try out that soup. Get my chopsticks. Reach in there and see what we can find. Bon appetit. covered with fish. Mmm. See, fish and grass seed. Mmm. Oh, and crushed berries taste so good when you put them in water like that. Ah. When I make my crushed berry drinks, I just leave the berries in there, and after I drink all the water, I eat the berries too. So I kind of make sure that none of the food gets wasted. And then for dessert, a handful of nice ripe berries. And because you're eating so well out in the woods, sooner or later you're going to have to go use the bathroom. So one of those things you might want to use for that is, well, what I use is I'll take a fern leaf and fold it up real nice like that. Make sure there's no pine needles in it. And you can use that for TP. And if you need TP and you can't find fern leaves, or you can't find soft grasses or whatever to use, you can just use deer moss. When it's moist, it's nice and soft and spongy, and it's really the perfect thing. And of course, you got to make sure the heat goes where you want it and that everything isn't going to fall apart. And yeah, it takes a few minutes. As you can see, I got a good fire going in there. And if you're out in an area where it's a little windy, you may have to shelter it from the wind so that it works properly. Just remember, you want the heat to go where you want it to go. You may have to make some minor adjustments. No, you just let the heat do its work. The idea is to catch your pine sap in the vessel. See, it's going to drizzle right off into it, just like that. You may need to use a stick or something to keep it from sliding off of there. But as it melts, you'll get pure, clean, clarified pine resin. just like that. You see the pine sap just melts right off into your vessel. Nice and clean. All the sticks and bugs and pine needles and everything stay on the shell, and the melted pine sap just runs right down into whatever you're catching it in, and you have pure clean pine resin. And the reason why I'm doing this is I'm going to make some gum out of this, and I don't want any impurities in it. I want it to be as clean as it possibly can be. So this is how to do it. See? Nice, clean, pure pine resin with no junk in it. Yeah. This I'm going to add to a few things, and I'm going to make a chewing gum that you can chew up and swallow just like any other food. The recipe for making chewing gum out of pine sap is you got to have pine resin, beeswax, and cinnamon infused honey. And of course I don't have any cinnamon, but I do have a honeycomb, and I do have some beeswax, and I've got pine sap. So I'm going to show you how to do that. The first thing I got to do is heat up my stone vessel over top of my oil lamp, just until it's hot enough to boil all the materials together. You don't want to get the rock red hot, but it does have to be hot enough to bring all the elements together. And when that heats up enough, we'll finish making some gum. First thing you put in there is you add your pine sap. And you take a piece of beeswax. This is commercial beeswax that I purchased. It's 100% pure honeybee wax, and you can eat it just to eat it by itself, but I like to add a little bit of pine sap and honey to it and make gum. You just put that in there and you let that melt. And then of course I got a honeycomb here, a piece of honeycomb that I'm gonna cut open and squeeze a little bit of honey into it once these things are melted. And you can just take any old twig or whatever to kind of stir it around. You gotta be really careful you don't dump it. You should use equal portions of pine sap and wax so that it stays soft. It won't be hard and crunchy. It'll stay soft and pliable, more like any other gum. Squeeze your honeycomb and squeeze the honey out of it. That's good and sweet. And you just let it cook together until it's all melted. Once it starts to bubble and boil, you take a pair of tongs or whatever and take it off the heat. As you can see, it's still really hot. So So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stir it together. And make sure it's really well mixed together. It'll turn foamy once it gets all infused. And then you just let it cool off until it reaches a consistency like caramel. Then you can take it out of your vessel and pop it in your mouth and chew it. And that's all there is to it. Now that my gum's almost cooled off enough, you can see it's starting to get nice and thick. I'm going to scrape it into the shell. And see? Now the gum's nice and cool. See? That's the end of the finger. Boy, that's good. No, it don't taste like pine sap. It tastes like honey. That's sweet and good. Yep, excellent refresher when you're out in the woods.